Good morning, everyone. We will give just a few minutes before we get started. Can you guys see my screen okay and hear me okay? If someone can just let me know in the chat, that should be open. Okay, as long as everyone can hear me okay and you can see my slides okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you can't for some reason, let me know. I'm Rachel Majors. I'm a digital marketing consultant at ASBTDC out of Fayetteville, under the University of Arkansas. So today we're going to be talking about building your own channels and email marketing subscriptions, and we'll dive into a little bit more of what that means and why we're talking about this topic today. But first, just a little bit about ASBTDC. That stands for the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. So in our region, we are the North Arkansas region. So we are able to provide free business consulting services to any for-profit business. So from home business to high tech, we're able to provide one-on-one consulting and really in-depth market research, which is really valuable to businesses in our area. So if you're interested in signing up to be a client and you're not already, you can visit us at svtdc.uark.edu or check out that QR code. Just a little bit about me before we dig into the business of it all. Oh, one little housekeeping thing. This webinar is being recorded. You will get the recording link after we wrap up and the slide deck as well. So you'll notice that the slides are pretty text heavy. That is so it can jog your memory after the presentation. So just a little bit about me before we dig into all the marketing and business chatter for the day. Originally from the area, moved around a lot and came back in 2012, and I've stayed ever since. It is home to me. We just really love the outdoor access here. We're always biking, camping, hiking, always outside. So love our area for that, and just interacting with small businesses like you guys. I think we have a really unique setup in NWA for small businesses, and that's always been a passion of mine. So I feel very lucky to be able to work with all of you through the Small Business Center. And then from a professional focus, I've always been in the digital marketing realm. I always focus a lot in analytics, budget optimization, search engine optimization, and now that's moving more into optimizing for AI. So everything that I'm consulting clients on is always an organic kind of what are these gears that we can turn to kind of optimize areas that maybe we're ignoring or maybe are not always the most fun traditionally for marketing. So I'm not your aesthetic marketer. I'm definitely a lot in the back end of strategy and the gear turning side of it all, which is fun to me. So today we're talking about owned channels, just channels, not channels, and what that means for your target audience or audiences. And so we're going to break that down a little bit and understand why it matters, and then transition into email marketing, subscription acquisition, and I threw some Google business in there. This presentation came up because we've had a decent amount of businesses that have either had problems with maybe their social media channels, or one day they get completely locked out, something happens, they're losing followers, it's harder to keep up in the algorithm. And so I really wanted to give you guys some thought processes around expanding beyond social if that is a main channel for you, and just kind of thinking about the level of control that you have between your different marketing channels. This is a new webinar and content, so if you have any feedback for it, we will send a survey, and I'd love to be able to fine tune it. Um, okay, so first, kind of our typical discovery platforms for small businesses. Um, this is going to change between who your target audience is and where they are. So if we think about, there's kind of the pre-visit discovery and the in destination. So are you marketing to people who are maybe just online only? They might not even live here if you rely heavily on tourism. We'll get into that as well. Like your discovery channels are going to be different. You can't always rely completely on email marketing if you're trying to attract a lot of people who don't live here and maybe haven't interacted yet. So we need to think about how we're getting people in the funnel and then how we're keeping them. Um, for where they are currently and where they will be. So if we think about the pre-visit discovery, that can be Google search or AI search. Are they going? You might start seeing in your Google Analytics some traffic from ChatGPT as a referral or something like that. That's a great sign that you have your resources set up in a way that allows search AI engines basically to pull information from your website, social media, all of that is feeding into AI now. Your social media platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever you're on, like how are they able to find you online? Word of mouth recommendations for friends or family. Maybe someone has already interacted with your business and they're talking about it. Online review sites like Google, Yelp, Facebook, where people are leaving recommendations. Any local business directories, industry websites and forums. Reddit is really playing into a lot of that, which I think kind of draws this line between forum and social media, and then local media and publication. So that's kind of before or maybe how they're discovering you. If they're in your destination, can they view your physical storefront signage, local events and trade shows, networking events, community organizations, referrals from other businesses and people? The mobile near me searches, they're already, and that's where we'll talk about Google Business, and then local partnerships and collaboration. So think of this kind of as your web. How are you already reaching people? Where are there opportunities to web out a little bit? So you kind of have this 360 marketing approach. Um, some opportunity areas I think are always just like email communication that can encourage repeat business, local search optimization for mobile discovery, strategic partnerships and relationship building with complementary businesses. So we often rely on a ton of marketing to our potential customer and our target audience, but businesses down the street from us, other people in town, think of like Airbnbs, people who are giving recommendations can really be a strong lead source for you. The more people that know about you, the more people that can interact with you and recommend you, and you start building this network out. And then just thinking about a channel strategy based on your specific target audience, which we will dig into. So next, this kind of repeat slide, but these are kind of our common content marketing channels when I'm talking to small business owners. This is doable and normally how we're finding customers interacting. Outside of those channels, kind of our analytics tools that I like to see clients have is for website traffic, do we have Google Analytics 4 installed? Google Search Console. Have you submitted your website? Does Google know you exist? Web platform stats. That can be like you use Shopify, you're using the native Shopify analytics, which is really great. I just always suggest adding Google Analytics 4 on top of whatever your platform already provides. Are you tracking lead generation, conversion rates, your engagement rates across social media and email? And then are we adjusting based on our strategy? So this is kind of setting up our framework of if we're going to lean in maybe more to email marketing or make some of these changes in our own channels, how are we going to know the impact of them? And really, having a few analytics and markers will help you understand the impact of any changes that you're making. This is where we kind of get into the owned channels. So if we think about owned channels as our highest control, we have a range of kind of low, medium, high. So in our lowest, that is going to be more of that we are not controlling the algorithms. There's a third party that we're interacting with, and we're kind of always changing to what they are adjusting for us, right? And that gets really hard and frustrating for small business owners. We're always already kind of strapped for time, and then we need to always be educating on algorithms and understanding trends and all of these things. So, um, that is important. I think there is a way to use your social channels and your lower control channels to inform and kind of almost train your audience to start also interacting with these medium high control channels. And that's what we'll talk about more today. So, reminders on these social media channels of like, hey, we send out a monthly newsletter. Subscribe there for updates, all of that. So that if you feel that you're losing visibility on these lower control channels, you're seeing less engagement, you're seeing maybe your new follower rate is not as high as it used to be, we can start giving people other ways to interact. Um, we also see that just some users and customers are leaving social media. If we see that as a trend too, we need to kind of give people an outlet to interact with us in other ways. Medium control, if we think of these kind of as rented platforms, the rules can change, but we are normally controlling the content and can make adjustments a little quickly and more personalized. So these are your website, any kind of SEO, AEO, GEO, all the EOs coming into the industry, Google business, content marketing, just in general, like what materials are we making in our partnerships. And then high control, more of those purely owned channels, our email lists, any SMS campaigns, direct mail, loyalty program, customer database. So this is kind of the data that you own and that customer relationship that you own from a communication standpoint as well. So with anything, I think that we always want to think about our channels from a diversification strategy versus pure abandonment. So I think that some of those lower control channels still have a very important play, like that, and that's kind of the whole idea of content marketing, right? Is you are creating different content, you're on all of these different channels, because even within your 2 to 3 target audiences, you can find that people completely interact with content in different ways. Some people are going to watch video, some people are only going to read text. Some people are only going to read your emails, and some people maybe only interact on email or on social media and they don't want your emails. So kind of throughout this presentation, we're building ways that we can interact with all layers of our target audience in ways that are valuable, but we're not just completely abandoning social media because we're tired of it, right? And so kind of the idea of that is like the benefits of diversification are kind of that gradual reallocation of resources based on performance. So if we're tracking what's working, we can lean into certain channels a little bit more, maybe if we are aware of how they're performing. Building those own channels alongside platform presence. So we never want to rely 100% on our customers only ever being able to interact with us on social media. We need a website. We need a Google business. We need our email marketing. Like we need other communication standpoints. It's a good way to test new opportunities. And then we always want to maintain consistent brand presence across all channels and use these platforms strategically. And then just kind of the risk of platform abandonment. Like I would say if you ever were going to get off a certain platform, like maybe you have been on Twitter for 10 years for your business, but you're really seeing a decline, it's not worth it. There's a way to kind of inform that audience of the platform that you may consider leaving to, hey, we're moving over to Facebook, Instagram, and our email marketing channels. That's where you can find updates in addition to our website. And you're kind of getting that message out there before you're leaving. And I think that's a really important part based on your strategy and what you're learning. Yeah, so there can be that competitor advantage if your competitors are leaving a certain space. Maybe it's good to be there in a way that is doable for you, but you're still providing value to a target audience. And then just that reduction of discovering opportunities. If we don't know where our target audience is, that can be kind of a hazard for us if we're considering leaving certain channels. And then your potential perception of business. So we always, if we were to leave a platform or we're going to lean into other platforms more, we never want to just stop or close it down. And we don't want our target audiences and customers to think that something is wrong. So we kind of want to phase it out in a way that is very clear, speaks to our customers and followers, and gives them other options to engage before we were to ever leave anything. Um, Completely leaving platforms is not something I interact with clients a lot about. It was a specific question for a business group I had worked with that was very tourism based. And so I think that, it's always good to consider, and I think it's good to have a plan if you were to have an impact there in some way. Um, so I feel, in everything, it all comes back to your target audience. So if we don't have clear definitions of our target audience, then oftentimes our marketing can be off or not relate to the people that we're going to value as customers. So first, we want to determine our audience. What is the tone and core message that will fit them? Who is our ideal customer? Sometimes your current customer base might not be your ideal customer base, and it can be a good time to reconsider. So our audience and demographics will inform you of the platforms and systems that will be important to implement. What is important to them? How can you make it easy to incorporate your product and service into their lives? So we're learning about them, we're understanding demographic data. This is a lot of that market research that we can provide through the center. We're learning about them in a way that we know how to connect through marketing. And then identifying keywords. So what do these target audiences use? How do they speak? How do they interact online? And then just understanding marketing against age groups. I'm not going to go into this too much, but you can kind of see that depending on the age groups and target audiences that you have, your marketing channels are going to range. So, Gen X is more heavily into email and social media, like Facebook, but they are likely not on TikTok. So if you're finding a range of millennials and Gen X, you might need to have more of that mix across social media, email marketing. Millennials are very digital first, but millennials can also start feeling burnout in some of these digital channels. So how can we make it in a way that we can kind of give some of these target audiences a choice in interacting with our businesses? And then Gen X and Gen Alpha, again, very digital. You're going to need to diversify channels more. Gen Z is more Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube has value, but it all needs to make sense for your business as well. So keeping these in mind in your channel strategy is very important. Another kind of audience that I think is really growing in NWA and why I put it in this presentation is travelers and tourism. More people are coming to our area than ever for all of the events and just interacting. There's more travel influencers throughout the state. There's more awareness of our area, and people are coming to visit and choosing to vacation here. In addition to university driving a lot of traffic, football season. So think of it that way. You're going to be heavy in the pre-discovery and that in destination if we're relying on the tourism, and then understanding how people find businesses when they're going to a location is important. So you can see that heavily like word of mouth, search engine, online booking platform, family and friends, and then they're discovering in destination. When I'm going on a trip, I am heavy. I'm Googling. Everything I do, I call it this Google black hole, but I'm like this web of information. I'm heavy on Google Maps, so I'm deep in people's Google business profiles. I'm in Reddit a lot now and Instagram. So people spend a lot of time researching places they're going to go, and that's why we want to show up in the best way that we can to capture those audiences as well. Okay, also if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A or the chat. I do have a section at the end. I hope this is all making sense. So one of our best owned channels that I see a lot of opportunity in for small business owners to build out a strong strategy is email marketing. And so oftentimes, we get a lot of emails. We get that feedback all the time of like, another email to open. I think a lot of that perspective is the value of the emails you're providing, and we'll talk about that from a content perspective. So just some of our best practices here. One of our main best practices is list segmentation, which we'll get into, but we always want to provide email or value in emails that we're sending. So um, a lot of e-commerce businesses, for example, are really heavy on email. You go and look, you get an email. You look at something, you get an email. You abandon your cart, you get an email. Unless you're ready to purchase, that can feel maybe a bit overwhelming, but it also can work for e-commerce where you're trying to drive that demand almost and that urgency of something. So e-commerce email is always going to be a bit different and a different strategy than kind of just regular updates and keeping your customers involved. Um, so we want to always provide value, and we're going to be able to do that because we know our target audience, we know what they interact with and what is important to them because we've done that research. Set a frequency for sending. So maybe it looks like a welcome email when they sign up and subscribe. And in that welcome email, we're going to tell them, thank you so much for signing up. We send a monthly newsletter. Outside of that, we'll send you any related promotions, sales, and updates. So we're setting that expectation of like, we're not going to email you every day. We're going to be clear in it up front and know that this is a value add for you. And so setting those goals and pillars for your emails can look like we're going to send welcome emails, promotional emails, a monthly newsletter maybe, and then maybe you're going to send re-engagement. So if you're using email through your POS system, for example, you can maybe have campaigns going that's like if they haven't visited or shopped with you or used a service in 3 to 6 months, you're going to send them a re-engagement. Hey, we've missed you. Here's some of the new things that we're doing, service reminder type thing, book today, come in the store, visit us. Sometimes in the re-engagement, people will want to add special offers or discounts. That can be great. I think that with this, and this goes along with email marketing, we never want to set an expectation that our business will always provide a discount. And I think that's a very important line to draw. We want people coming in and paying for our products and services no matter what because they're valuable. And so we don't want to set that expectation. But you can do it in a way that is beneficial. And maybe if someone hasn't engaged in 6 months, they can prioritize that if they have a 10% off or something like that. And then segmentation is basically understanding the different audiences and interaction within your email marketing list. So that will look different for every business, but it could look like by your visitor type. They, like groups of people, if you are someone that's like event heavy or something, might interact with something completely different than couples or families. This could also look like visitor frequency instead. So maybe you have your email marketing list designated by locals and tourists because when you have that intake form for your email subscription, you're asking for their address. Then you can kind of designate by them. I think marketing to tourists as well is different because they can't always pop in or interact with you at the same frequency than locals can. So if we're sending our tourists or visitors emails that are the exact same as locals, it might not always hit, and you might see an unsubscribe rate go up because we're not targeting our language to them and how they can interact with our business. This could look like by interest, visit history, so they've never visited but they've subscribed versus first time versus returning. Geography, again, are you seeing like a regional drive market, a tourist markets? How far are people coming to you? engagement levels. So are they very engaged or do they need high engagement? So there's a lot of options with email segmentation. A lot of the times, your email marketing platform or your POS will do a lot of this for you, which is really nice. And I'll get into platforms in a bit. But I think that list segmentation and being very clear in what emails you're sending to who makes a big difference in your engagement. So, next, just some best practices. So, if we're trying to get people to sign up for our emails, we want to build that out as a communication channel for our customers. We want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that resonates. So we always want to craft compelling subject lines, provide value in every email, include clear call to actions. Do you want them to book? Do you want them to come in store? Can they shop online? Can they do an online order for in-store pickup? Do you want them to come eat or dine with you? Do you want them to book that next handyman service that they need that's been on the list for a year? Like, if we know our target audience, we should be knowing what a reasonable CTA is. And then in our emails, we always want to optimize for mobile viewing. Most people are opening emails on their mobile devices. So if you're using an email marketing platform, you can always view it in desktop and mobile. That mobile view is really important. Always send a test email to yourself and view it on your mobile device as well. And then another one that I want to put in here, I've seen it a little bit more often, is always designing in your email platform. We never want to just create like a big image or something in Canva and pop it into an email. That provides a really poor user experience. If I'm trying to copy or paste anything, I can't, like, if you can't select any text in an email, a search engine or an email provider can't read that either. And so oftentimes that image will be really big and can get sent to spam as well. So we always want to design in the email template and in our platform versus just throwing big graphics in there. I know the graphics can look nicer, and some platforms do have like Canva integration or some coding type stuff that you can do so that you can design in a different platform and bring it over. I would just always be sure that it looks good on your phone and that it's a nice experience and that it's not just a graphic. People can't click out on the image as well. So something I feel passionate about in the work. And as far as tools go, there's a variety of platforms. I always encourage my clients to pick systems that work in your current platforms and audience. So if you're already using a POS that has email marketing capability, that's a really easy feed in. You're already getting customers. You can have an option upon sign up or a purchase or something that allows them to opt in to email marketing, like Toast, Square, Squarespace, Shopify, Wix, any of those native platforms that you're already using mostly should all have them. CRMs do as well. If you're a more service-based industry, there are some service-specific CRMs that have email marketing as well. So think about it from that way. If you are wanting to add a third party, MailChimp or Klaviyo are two that I really like. MailChimp is easy. I think from the platform perspective, I always just think of data input. If you already have the data in one place and it can talk to a system, that's so much easier than needing to like download, upload all the time. We want to keep it clean and easy so that it feels like something that we can keep up with. Okay, this is a lot on a slide, but these are just some general ideas of how to increase email subscriptions. So if we're on location, it can look like that digital check-in or registration process, a QR code on receipts, business cards, marketing materials. This is really going to range across industry too. So I think it should feel natural to your customer, but give them the opportunity to sign up if they like. A Wi-Fi login and email capture, you'll see that a lot of times maybe at like coffee shops or hotels or something like that. A contest or giveaway entry, loyalty program enrollment. Loyalty programs are a great way to communicate and keep your users and customers engaged. or a point of sale sign up. You see that a lot. You're checking out somewhere. Hey, do you want to sign up for our email? Or sign up for our email and receive 10, 15% off your first purchase. So kind of that exchange for that email address. For digital collection, it can be newsletter sign up. You could use a lead magnet. Lead magnets work for specific businesses. We'll talk about that in a second. Social media, referral programs, your online booking or checkout, downloadable materials. So is that a guide, a map, itinerary? Pre-arrival information request. That can be a little bit more of like accommodation based, or special event registration. And you guys see this all the time when you're interacting. It's that opt-in at the bottom. I do or don't want to subscribe. Sign me up for emails. So a lot of those things exist already in your POS or your systems. And it's just the matter of adding them to those areas where your customers are already interacting and allowing them to opt in. We always need them to opt in. We cannot like buy lists. Like people have to know that they are opting into our email for communication regulations. So lead magnets, I have an example of this that I just did a rough mock-up of, but is basically an exchange of information for something that our target audience wants. So is it that ultimate guide to plumbing or something like that, to home maintenance? Retail could be discounts or early access to sales. You see that all the time on ecom. If you're a restaurant, the local foodies guide to NWA, if that looks so good and I need to have that, I'm willing to give you my email for that. Industry reports or market insights for professional services. Health and wellness could look like a seasonal wellness calendar, tip sheets. Maybe it's a short workout or something, or recipe. Home services, a maintenance checklist, or seasonal guides, things that maybe I don't want to go and think about on my own, but I'm willing to exchange information for. Partnership opportunities as well. So can you do some cross promotion with complementary businesses? Giveaways, we see those all the time. Visitor information center handoff. So if you have a listing maybe with a visitor center, chamber of commerce or something, what does that look like in a way that maybe someone can't interact with you right now, or they won't, but they could sign up for an email to stay up to date. And then Airbnbs and hotels. So if you're somewhere that people want to visit, could you reach out to these Airbnbs and hotels and just give them some information, and that can kind of start to build that referral base. This is just an example of a lead magnet or a guide. And you'll see it's kind of an overview and then into your email to receive that guide. Some email marketing metrics that we want to track for success is our open rate, click-through rate, conversion rate, bounce rate, and unsubscribe rate. And we'll get into these of like how you would kind of tweak each depending on what you're seeing. When I send this out, these are links to just some articles of kind of understanding what you should expect for your industry, and how to kind of know if maybe you're underperforming, maybe you're overperforming. That's amazing. And just understand kind of setting that baseline so that you know how your email is performing. And then it's just always important to remember that averages will differ by industry. So understand industry benchmarks, but also understand what is a benchmark for your personal business and email. You might see that monthly newsletters perform really differently than your re-engagement emails or your welcome emails. We just want to keep that in mind for us and always kind of keep that benchmark data for our marketing metrics as well, so that we know when something's going up or down. We might not always match the industry averages, and that's okay. So kind of an idea of when to take action. If open rates drop, we might test different subject lines, adjust sending time, clean up our email list. People might not be opening because if someone hasn't interacted in 2 years, you might just want to remove them or kind of clean up your list based on engagement as well if it's bringing your open rates way down. if open rates are dropping, maybe we aren't segmenting our list and we need to reevaluate that. I think what we always don't want to do is just to send more emails to compensate. More emails will not necessarily help your open rate or engagement. What will is that value add. If people know they get an email from your business, they want to open it, maybe it's really charming, or maybe it's always informational. Um, it's something that I look forward to. If click rates are low, we might need to move key content higher. So a click rate will be within the email they've opened it. Um, your click rate can be a little variable based on the type of email. If your email is very informational and you're not necessarily asking them to click out or take an action, then your click rate is going to be low or maybe 0%. And maybe that's okay based on the type of email that you're sending. So that's all things you kind of need to track and know for yourself. Like a low click rate can make sense for some types of email. But if you are expecting people to click in the email and take an action, and you're seeing that low click rate, then we might want to move key content higher in the email, make our CTAs more prominent, use action-oriented button text, reduce the number of links. Maybe we're giving people too many options to interact in an email. And we don't want to add too many flashy graphics or GIFs. We don't want to overwhelm people in our email. We want to make it very clear, understandable, and kind of drive them throughout the email on the action that we want them to take. If your unsubscribe spike, we might need to review our recent content changes. Did we have something really consistent that people loved and we tried to switch it up? That's a good test, but maybe we need to reevaluate that. Check our email frequency. Are we sending too often and people are just over it? That's a good kind of checklist item to have in your unsubscribe page, as well as like, why are you unsubscribing? If people are like, I don't live near you anymore, that makes sense. If people are saying it's too many emails, we need to adjust that. It's also always, a decent idea to survey some subscribers, like evaluate your current list and understand what they want to read and interact with and learn about your business. Analyze which email triggered it. So usually you will get an unsubscribe rate for every email that you send. If one is very high, let's really evaluate that and understand, like, oh, maybe that content didn't resonate. And that is an important learning. And we just don't want to immediately change everything. So if we are always changing everything, we can never actually understand the impact of anything. And I think that's really important. So you can make small changes, do a little A/B testing, like maybe it's a subject line, but we never want to just completely change like our complete tone and goal of the email and the subject line and the content and the buttons and the color and everything, because we end up throwing our user off. And just a few little technical best practices here. Always use small format images, and never embed videos directly into your email unless you have an email provider that has a native video embed. We never just want to upload like a 20 megabyte file into our email. Images and attachments that are too large or in a weird format kind of set email platforms off, and you can just get instantly put into junk mail or spam. Ensure all recipients have opted in. Always use a reputable email carrier and platform. Again, that can be something, even your sender address should look legit and be a verified domain. That's another thing that can just kind of throw email platforms off. So we need to know these technical best practices too, so that we have a chance of just getting in someone's inbox. And then I put a link in there as well that you'll have to avoid additional spam risks. So just being intentional about email marketing and what we're sending makes a big difference in readership and engagement. So a few different kind of common email marketing options are that welcome email, which can be automated, your promotional emails, that might be a little less calculated on when you're going to send them, but can look like new product services emails, special offers, seasonal promotions, events, holiday specials, kind of those little treats too, right? Of You might see certain audiences only engage with your email when there's a discount or a special or promotion or something. You might understand that as a different segment and list and target audience as well. So, um, those normally perform pretty well because people like something that feels a little bit different. Re-engagement emails can be automated from your POS or your platform. So that abandoned cart, the special we miss you offers, maybe it's a birthday offer, um, update since you last visited, like, hey, it's been a while, just wanted to let you know that we've added new products and services or something. Um, Feedback and review requests. So I do like sending for certain businesses, it makes sense to get feedback before you request a review. And I think that email can be a really nice channel for that. If we aren't giving our audiences a way to give us feedback, then sometimes they can just go straight to review sites when it's something we can fix and address. It's good to give them an outlet in that way. And then maybe we're offering them exclusive comeback deals. So you run an email to that user base that hasn't visited in 6 months, maybe it makes sense to give them 10% off to see if they'll re-engage. A newsletter is more update based, once a month. It can be pretty consistent, but some people might like opening something once a month to get the download versus all the time. This is just a little email marketing example of a motel in Branson. Even though I don't live in Branson, I still open these because I like the way that they look, and I'm always like, okay, if there's a deal, maybe we plan a trip or something. And so I think you can just kind of see too, like what I have opened and what I have not. And I think that that is just interesting. Again, in this situation, I would be more that target audience of someone you might be trying to re-engage from a tourism perspective or something. But I like the way they look, and I think that they're fun to open. This is a lot of ideas, so I'm going to send this to you guys to read more. But I think just thinking each kind of industry will have different ways to engage email marketing that will make sense to your individual industry and business. So, just a few different ideas here. But again, always that value, always thinking customer first. We can provide information and updates from a business perspective, but we never want to make an email like us centric as a business. Okay, now I'm going to do a very quick course in Google Business. If you guys have any questions about email marketing, or I can leave this up for a few seconds while I chat, but email marketing is very important. And just while I have you guys, I wanted to throw in a little bit of Google Business because it is a very valuable platform. And I have a different course on this, but just wanted to give a few little tips and tricks there, as Google Business can be sometimes a little more instant, a great discovery platform, an interaction platform. And if that is how we gather some users, then we could feed them into asking them to subscribe to our emails and giving them that as a communication outlet. I won't go through all of these because you can get them, but just a few benefits to Google Business. It is free. So we get that question a lot of like, how much does it cost? Or some small businesses will get some outreach of like, pay us to do this, or for $2,000 you can have your Google Business set up. You don't need to pay for it, and if someone is telling you you have to pay for it, I would be very cautious of that. So the best way is to claim and verify your Google Business profile and complete the profile sections, which we'll go through. Actively manage all reviews. So whether they're positive or negative, it's a great way to show your customer service level. Encourage those satisfied customers to leave reviews. We want really positive reviews. We can always learn from less than positive reviews, but maybe we're using some email follow-up to get that feedback for the less than positive versus only giving people a public outlet. We're going to optimize for local SEO. So Google Business is a great source for that. It's also kind of informing those AI answers as well that we're seeing more in search. So we're using more of that location-specific keywording and relevant business categories and attributes. We're informing our users in addition to the search engine. And then post updates is something that the platform is prioritizing more, which we'll get into that. So, can you share special offers, events, news, add new photos? Maybe you test something that's like, hey, sign up for our email newsletter and get 10% off your next service. Like, what is relative to your audience on Google Business? And then there's really easy analytics in there to just monitor and analyze your performance. So customizing your account, the main ways to do this is across your business name, categories, and you can add custom categories, your business description. So that's probably your main kind of external conversation piece with a potential customer. This is where you'll add a little bit more of your keywording, make it um, informative for your customer in addition to the search engine. Are there any trends, services, products? Do you offer a happy hour? Like, think of things that people would be searching for, that you would want to come up for. There's a little blurb I just wrote of a fake business I made up, but trying to drive and inform based on how we want to show up and what we're offering. Um, a really important part of this as well is just some of those kind of back end housekeeping um, things that we need to do. So we need to list our services, have our website and social links, um, make sure we're setting our location and service areas accurately, and hours and special hours are very important. So we always want to make sure that our Google business can be a source of truth for customers and potential customers. So you can lose a lot of trust with customers if they feel like your hours are really irregular, or your Google business says you're open, but they go into your brick and mortar and you're closed. Like, this should always be in your workflow of updates. Maybe it's a snow day or 3 snow days as we often get here. We're snowed, iced in, we can't get to the shop or something, or we won't be able to come out for a service. We could send an email and say, hey, we're closed this day and the next. If you have any issues, or want to shop, or please shop with us online. Like, provide the outlet kind of, but keep people informed. Change your Google business hours so you can change it to a specific day that it's closed, or you might have special hours. If you're offering like morning service from 8 to 11 or something, you close for a few hours in the afternoon and you reopen, you can do setups like that. And then photos is something that the platform is prioritizing more. So make sure you have your logo and just kind of show, like, what does the inside of your business look like if the inside of your business is something people interact with. Um, you also do not have to have a physical location for Google Business. You have to put an address in to the account to set it up, but you can hide that address. So you can work from home or have a service or completely online and still be verified as a Google Business profile. And then any characteristics that you want people to know about, there are a few set ones within the profile. Parking options is really important. If you can tell people exactly what to expect if they're going to show up, kind of takes a little bit of risk and anxiety, if maybe it's the first time interacting. Google Business made a few updates this year, so you can just add more specific services, and gives more description, prices, just kind of gives that potential customer a little bit more upfront to learn about your business. And then updates. So now you have updates, offers, and events. That can be really great if I'm looking for what's happening in Fayetteville this weekend. Google will kind of pull those Google Business event posts and give you a nice view of that as a user. And then again, certain areas of the account will look different to others based on your category. So if you're a food business, you might see a pickup link or delivery link. If you are a more product-based business, you might see it allow you to list your products or something. Again, service area, how can people interact with you? Maybe you have a physical location, but you also have online. We want to make sure that people are in reasonable distance to interact with us. We don't want to just go crazy with our service areas just to branch out in search. So reviews are very important. This is just kind of technical setup of where you can find your review link and how to ask for reviews. Again, I'm a true believer in trying to get feedback before, or if someone's giving you amazing feedback, like verbally or something, um, you can then say, "Hey, we love this. This makes a huge difference to us as small business owners. Um, we'd love for you to leave a 5-star review if you feel compelled," or whatever that feels and looks like for your business. And then we went to reply to all reviews. So um, you do see instances of like businesses just kind of getting spammed. And you can try to go back and report that to Google. That's still kind of Google's job, but by replying, you can show your level of customer service. You always want to be, you know, conversational, helpful. If you think you're being spammed and someone has truly never interacted with your business, there's a way to respond in a way that um, just shows that if anyone's looking at your lowest reviews, that um, maybe impacts their decision a little bit less. So um, I would just say, you know, there's no need to be sassy on the platform. It is really an outward show, and people pay a lot of attention to reviews. So always take a customer service approach with those replies. Okay, that was a lot of content. If you have questions, please send it in the chat or the Q&A, and I will just spend a little time waiting that out. I'll leave this screen up. You can request a consultation, view our other events and trainings, and any recorded trainings here. And you will get this link and the slide deck. So I'll hang out here for any questions. And if you don't have them, then that's great. Also, if you feel that I didn't touch on an area that you were hoping to get, you can throw that in the Q&A. I have that just where I can see it, and I can always address things and send it in our follow-up email for information. Okay, it's seeming pretty quiet in all of our, oh, here we go. Oh, I'm seeing that maybe the chat is disabled. If you have something you want to, so sorry guys. If you have something you want to chat, you can throw it in the chat now. Okay, it is quiet on my end, so I will let you guys go a little bit early. Thank you so much for attending, and I hope to see you on some other trainings. Have a great weekend.